Rewind the dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly as we hear from Jon and Wai Ting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
And with that, welcome to Rewind-A-Dynamite. I'm John Pollock alongside Wai Ting here on Inauguration Day.
Yes, it is. Yes. A big deal.
It's always a big deal when you have a new president. Did you watch any of the coverage today?
I had it on in the background. Yeah, I pretty much watched. I watched most of it. I watched the guy get in the copter. I watched the copter fly. I watched the copter land. Got out of the copter. I watched the guy walk out the door. He walked up the steps, said stuff, walked down the steps. You know, that's about it.
It's a pretty, I guess by certain standards, like a relatively modest speech. It was like 20 minutes or so. Did you stick around for the poem afterwards by, what was her name? Amanda Gorman? Did you hear this?
I had it on in the background. It was quite.
I thought this was like one of the most incredible speeches I've ever heard. It was unbelievable.
It was very impressive. Yeah, it was.
22 years old.
Oh, there are plenty of people that put us to shame with what they've accomplished at such a young age. But I guess because of COVID, it was a restricted inauguration, but it still had like plenty of fanfare, and of course. The ultimate thing is that everything was conducted very safely, and this is an administration that got right down to business. Like they've been in office for I think 10 hours, and they've already been like doing a whole lot.
Oh yeah, it was like right into the executive orders. I mean, it's not really a day of just to be self congratulatory. Like this is a pretty dark time in the world. To be honest.
No, exactly.
So I think that's the message everyone wanted to hear today is that, okay, that's great. The Democrats are in power, but get to work. I think that's what everybody wants.
A lot of people are dying every single day. Absolutely. There's an emergency going on.
Yes. Do you want to, we can do one quick game. It's called, oh my God, do you know what the President of the United States tweeted today? Today's tweet, the time to move forward is now. Oh my God!
Outrageous.
The president tweeted that.
Ban him.
Can you believe it?
No.
I will do this every week as long as it's as we get back to. I want @POTUS to be the dullest Twitter account.
Well, I mean, the hope is that eventually we won't even talk about anything involving the president on a wrestling podcast anymore. I look forward to the day where it's just not even really newsworthy.
Well, that was a significant event, obviously, today, but we are going to be covering tonight's episode of Dynamite and getting into some news, feedback, everything.
There's a lot of stuff going on, but most importantly, John, before we went on the air, you informed me that you actually had some extracurricular viewing today.
Last night.
Last night. You watched the first episode of WandaVision. I'm really curious to know what you think, and as I think a lot of people are. You are well-versed in the MCU by this point, having reviewed almost every film. But what did you think of this first episode? Because there are mixed reviews for sure.
I haven't read any reviews beyond listening. I've listened to you and WH up through your review of episode 1 because I haven't seen the second episode yet. But it was a pure coincidence that I watched it because I was only logging on to Disney Plus. I'm almost at the end of The Mandalorian, and I was just literally looking up like the length of the last episode, and then WandaVision's right there, staring me in the face, and I just was drawn to the length. It's like 28 minutes, which really it's like 22. Honestly, like the last 6 minutes is like credits. So I was like, you know what? I got time. Let's watch this. And I watched it. Time was, I was never bored during this episode. I really thought that it's an homage to so many like classic shows that you guys went over. But I think that's that's easier said than done. You know what I mean? Like that could have been a complete disaster. And I thought what stood out to me in episode 1, number 2, the two main characters I think are just outstanding. They carry this thing with their personalities, but it is the writing on this show that it's just so witty and written as if I was transformed back or sent back to 1960. Like you really are. Like, even like the humor of it is like the corny jokes, the tropes that you would associate with such a show, right down to the magazine of how to please your husband and such. It was, I don't know. I can totally see why people that are coming into an MCU property would have no idea how to react to this or have a negative reaction to it. But for me, I enjoyed it for the 22 minutes or so that it was.
As somebody who never really grew up with the Dick Van Dyke Show or Bewitched, I feel like a lot of those, the accuracy and the faithfulness and the work maybe it took to like create those parodies might have been lost on me. They weren't really lost on WH, but for me, I'm really looking forward to like jumping into the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and seeing what sort of like tropes they pull from all the sitcoms of those eras that I'd be a whole lot more familiar with. But you're absolutely right. From what I can gather, like extremely faithful and, well done, sharp parodies. And of course, you have an underlying story that's essentially a horror mystery underneath it all that's set to reveal itself too. So thank you for...
Is it the same? Is it still based, like episode 2, is it kind of borrowing from other genres? It's not... Like, is it... It's
still sitcom. Episode 2. So episode 1 is the Dick Van Dyke Show, essentially. And it's kind of more like, early 60s, maybe even like late 50s. Episode 2 is more like late 60s. Episode 3, which is set to drop in about 24 hours, that deals with the 70s. And from what I gather, the Brady Bunch. In fact, one of the listeners in the Discord, so his mother sells like Brady Bunch dolls on eBay, and actually had Marvel buy one from her.
Wow.
So there's a weird connection. Postwrestling.com/Discord, everybody. Join it. It's the best. It's the place to be. You learn tidbits like this. But yeah, so they'll move on to the 70s, and then we'll get into the 80s, and then the 90s.
Oh, what will be parodied in the 80s? Will they be...
I think it'll be Family Ties, from what I hear.
They got to be set in Texas.
Texas. Oh, that's not a sitcom, though.
Come on, it's
close enough.
A serial drama.
Yeah. So, I'm thank you for listening to it. If you are curious, everybody, about listening to our review, Rewind-A-Vision, the episode that we did last week with WH, introducing everybody to it, is absolutely free right now at postwrestlingcafe.com. Just scroll to Rewind-A-Vision, which is about like 2-3 posts down, or you can go to youtube.com/postwrestling and you can listen right there. But new episodes will drop every weekend. So sign up right now, postwrestlingcafe.com, where you can also, let's get all the plugs out of the way here very quickly, John. Also, tomorrow at postwrestlingcafe.com, I will be debuting a brand new podcast with Jordan Goodman. We'll be talking a bit about mental health and, the concept of flow states, and really just kind of getting to know a lot of our audience. So it's called the Wellness Policy, and it's open to all members of the Post Wrestling Cafe at 3:00 Eastern time on Zoom Thursday. So do join us, and it'll be available afterwards to listen if you can't join us then either.
Definitely check out the debut of the Wellness Policy. Also, I want to give a mention that for Post Wrestling Cafe members, you also have the latest edition of Rewind-A-Way that seems to have gotten a lot of praise from people that enjoyed our breakdown of the 2014 interview that Steve Austin conducted with Vince McMahon on the WWE Network. It's a 60-minute interview, but somehow we talked for over 2 hours about this interview, courtesy of our Espresso executive producer this week, our man Neil.
I honestly am surprised at how much there is to talk about in these interviews, and I was really proud of the podcast. I'm really glad people have enjoyed it so much, because it's fun to analyze and dissect professional wrestling matches and storylines. I almost find it way more interesting to like talk about people's the way they conduct themselves and the way they field tough interview questions, and especially if that person is Vince McMahon, who rarely does these things. So even like in a 60-minute interview with Steve Austin, I felt like there was so much to gather and analyze. So I really enjoyed the show. I hope people enjoy it as well.
All of that can be found at postwrestlingcafe.com. $6 a month gets you access to all of the bonus shows. And just looking ahead, we're going to be putting out a lot of shows on the cafe coming up, including the wellness policy that debuts Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then a double shot of Wai on Sunday with Total Recall and WandaVision Episode 3.
And of course, Rewind to SmackDown on Friday going into Saturday, I suppose. And then next week, we've got our Rocky reviews coming back with Rocky 5. So usually we try to guarantee at least 2 bonus podcasts. I mean, this week it's something more like 4. We're probably going to have some New Japan, New Beginning podcasts that are exclusive to Post Wrestling Cafe members as well coming up. So you're getting a ton of value, plus the archive, of course.
And last plug, the Royal Rumble pool is now open. So go to postwrestling.com. The button is right there. It's free to join. And you have up until Sunday, January 31st at 3 p.m. Eastern time, the day of the Rumble, to submit all of your picks in the different subjects that we're asking questions for. So you can join now, or you can wait right up until the end. But make sure you submit your picks by 3 Eastern, the day of the Rumble. Let's move on to the news items. The first one concerns Conor McGregor. And I'm just going to recap what came out earlier this week on Tuesday, that actually a pair of civil suits have been filed against Conor McGregor. The first, it's a personal injury suit that was filed by an unnamed woman whose identity is protected in Ireland. But this is concerning the case that was investigated for some time by the National Police in Dublin. And they ended up ruling that they were not going to pursue criminal charges against Conor McGregor. So after that, this civil suit has now been filed. So this is not talking about criminal charges, but she is seeking damages. And, it's very serious accusations. The independent.ie, they were the ones that first broke the story that a suit had been filed against Conor McGregor and an associate of his, as well as a second suit filed by the unnamed woman's mother. So the New York Times have also obtained the statement of claim filed by the woman that lays out her description of what allegedly happened at a penthouse hotel room back in December of 2018. She is alleging that she was raped by Conor McGregor, that she had a sexual assault treatment done at a hospital, and that there was bruising found on most of her body along with abrasions, and then a month later went to the police. And she is seeking in a range from $1.79 to $2.13 million. Now, one of the differences in Ireland between a criminal case versus a civil suit is that the threshold to be met for a guilty verdict, there is a difference. In Ireland, the standard of proof in civil cases is a balance of probabilities. This is from the Times, meaning whether something is more than likely, something that is more likely than not to have occurred. That's what needs to be proven. In a criminal case, the offense must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's the difference. Now, McGregor's side is completely denying this. His spokesperson, Karen Kessler, responded, stating, after an exhaustive investigation conducted by the Gardaí, which is the National Police, in addition to interviews of the plaintiff, included interviewing numerous sources, obtaining witnesses' statements, examining closed-circuit footage, and the cooperation of Conor McGregor, these allegations were categorically rejected. The plaintiff knows the facts contradict the assertions in this lawsuit. Mr. McGregor will dispute any claims and is confident that justice will prevail. So that is the story here, that this woman and her mother are pursuing civil suits, and both are seeking trials to move this forward. So it's connected to a case that had been reported previously, but that was being investigated of whether criminal charges would move forward. So that is the latest involving the Conor McGregor story, and his side is adamantly denying what is being accused of the fighter. Raw ratings on Monday night saw a bit of a bump without any football competition this week. They did 1,854,000 viewers and a .60 in the demo. They were number 3rd for the night on cable behind a pair of NBA games. And if you throw out Legends Night, this would be the best Raw viewership going back to October the 12th, which was the night of the WWE draft, and it was their best demo number since the night after SummerSlam, which was the introduction of the Thunderdome. So there was a boost. It wasn't a giant one from last week, and last week had that 18 million viewership game for Alabama and Ohio State. But for this week, I mean, they started at just under 2 million viewers, and then the third hour fell to under 1.7 million viewers. They rebounded in some categories. Men 12 to 34, though, was down a significant amount of 29% from the week prior. And they lost audience of 15% from the first hour to the third hour. So a bit of a bounce back way. And maybe this is around the area we're going to be looking at what a non-football season of Raw is going to do in that kind of 1.8 million range. So I think that you go back to Legends Night, the fact that they were able to do over 2.1 million viewers, that really does show you the value of, I would say Hogan and Flair get a lot of the credit for that Legends Night. And I don't know how much Raw is going to be hitting 2 million viewers most weeks, even in WrestleMania season, unless something really notable catches fire or they have some big thing to promote for a one-off week.
I personally would really like to see them at least just try to promote one of their editions of Raw as a special wrestling-focused show with, like, you know, a series of matches maybe to look forward to, rather than just kind of relying on an individual's return, like we see them try to do with NXT or AEW. Really, like promoting a show like, what is it, Beach Break? No substantial returns. It's just some fancy dressing, you know, maybe you decorate the set a little bit different, but call it something unique and put a good headlining match up there. I definitely don't discount the fact that, you know, it's like Flair or Hogan that could get some of that credit, but I also feel like it's the idea that you're promoting a show as something more special than a typical edition of Raw that should get some credit as well. And I don't think they do that enough.
Yeah, I think that certainly, like this past week, throughout the weekend, like what you had was Alexa Bliss versus Asuka, but really the major thing promoted was Randy Orton's response, which they paid off in the, like, if you were someone that was actually curious about Randy Orton's response, you got it in the first 10 minutes of the show. And then after that, it's like, that's to me,
that's no hook at all. That's nothing.
Well, that's the argument.
There's no different there with something like that than just not trying at all. They could have not said anything. I'm sure they probably would have done similar.
Yeah. I think, though, it was notable that, you know, this week, you know, they had no significant football competition, or any football competition for that matter. They had the NBA to go against, which you're going to have now that the season's on. But last week, you know, they did more in that opening hour, and I think you have to look at that curiosity over Drew McIntyre last week, Triple H being on the show. But this week, I think it should have been up more, but I think they'll take it. They still did a 0.6 in the demo, so that's still notable for them if you're hitting your best demo figure since last summer. Similar, or staying on the ratings front, the UFC got their number in from ABC on Saturday afternoon, 1,220,000 viewers, and the main card also did 471,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demo. Now, they also, the last half of that card, including the Holloway Calvin Kattar fight, was going against the LA Rams Green Bay Packers game that did 26.5 million viewers. So they had significant competition on a Saturday afternoon. I wouldn't classify this as a home run. I also wouldn't look at it as a failure either. I think it was a fine number for them to do. And I think that ABC and UFC should try this again. I do like the idea of them having this window on ABC the week before a major pay-per-view, which, given Disney controlling ABC and ESPN Plus, it's to their benefit that they can do that hard push for a pay-per-view on their biggest platform of ABC. So I would imagine they do this again on ABC at some point down the road, and maybe we get 3 or 4 specials a year on the network.
It's a go-home show, isn't it?
That's what it was, yeah, to really hammer home McGregor and Poirier the next weekend. And you got like a pretty strong main card and a phenomenal main event on top of it. So I would think if you were one of those 1.22 million people, it was a pretty worthwhile use of your time on a Saturday afternoon going against the NFL playoffs, which is not an easy competitor to have on a Saturday. From there, we had several signings announced in WWE today as well. Priscilla Kelly, Elayna Black, and Lacey Ryan all coming into the company, and they will be part of the Women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Priscilla Kelly will now be Gigi Dolan. Elayna Black, the name generator, came out with Cora Jade. And then Lacey Ryan is Zoe Stark.
Zoe Stark. Gigi Dolan, you said?
Gigi Dolan.
That's how interesting with the obvious kind of Gigi Allen reference, just like Darby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, didn't even think of that. And maybe Stark Industries now branching out into the pro wrestling industry with Zoe.
Maybe.
Okay. Zoe Stark will team with Marina Shafir in the opening round against Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon, and Gigi Dolan and Cora Jade will face Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell in the opening round. And the first tournament match happened earlier tonight with Mercedes Martinez and Toni Storm against Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter. So we have 2 Dusty Rhodes Tag Classics going on, and we're going to have a women's title eliminator tournament in AEW coming up soon as well. So it's tournament season on Wednesdays.
You know what? When you have a bunch of kind of nameless faces without any real storylines, make a tournament.
Last thing here. Did you watch any of Impact on Tuesday night? This was probably the most significant crossover because not only did Matt Hardy appear with Private Party, we had Private Party beating Chris Sabin and James Storm to set up Private Party getting a future Impact tag title shot against the Good Brothers. But we had Tony Khan and Jerry Lynn appearing at Impact. And Tony Khan taking a page out of my book, literally, and there he was with his notes.
Stopwatch?
Not timing any. No stopwatch. I don't think. But
that's what Jerry Lynn was there for, to hold the stopwatch.
To have the stopwatch. If you have ever seen me at a wrestling show, folks, that is what I look like at a wrestling show. Is Tony Khan on Tuesday night.
It's no joke. Yeah, definitely happy to see at least a bit more integration between the two brands besides simply Kenny Omega on one show. Now it actually feels a lot like a more like a real crossover between the two, like a real invasion. I thought it absolutely helped Matt Hardy and Private Party, who I have said I've not been a fan of this new character on Dynamite. I think having him just simply be in an Impact environment already made him feel that much more special. I got a chance to kind of take his character in a far different way, and I thought it made him and Private Party look like that much bigger of a deal in the industry, which kind of played itself into tonight's role. So I thought it was as much of a help for the three of them as it was for Impact to get that much more buzz from more AEW talent and Tony Khan being on their show. I thought it was a really good follow-up for Hard to Kill.
Yeah, I think that it was a show that people would be curious to see what is the next step in this crossover, and I think they really delivered with it on Tuesday night. Also notable on Tuesday was the apparent write-off of Taya Valkyrie, who it was reported by Mike Johnson that her deal expired last month, but she stuck around to do Hard to Kill, and apparently it was very hard to kill Johnny Bravo, but Taya Valkyrie did try, and she is the one that was caught and sent off. And when asked where she was going to be sentenced, they said she would either be booked in Jacksonville or Stanford in a correctional facility. Jacksonville
Penitentiary, or if she's really unlucky, they would send her to, Stanford Maximum Security Prison. Really fun. I mean, the whole thing is as campy as hell, and everybody knows that it's just a way to, say goodbye in a nice way to Taya Valkyrie. I thought Tommy Dreamer's lines were really funny and just kind of, yeah. I mean, made for a fun little moment to say goodbye to a talent. Where do you think she's going?
I would say for her, I don't know where would be the best fit for her. I think that there would certainly be the option, like you look at AEW's women's division, I think everyone's still looking for it to grow. In WWE, I mean, she's 37. So it's like, I would not want to see her go there if they're just going to view her like in a Mickie James role where you could see like Mickie could still go. And I don't think they really had that confidence to really get behind Mickie in a big way. And I think that was the age factor.
Perhaps, obviously with John Morrison there, I feel like they might be a leading candidate, even if it's something like NXT. I certainly feel like an AEW could make use of somebody, a veteran like her. But of course, she might be open to working in Mexico as well.
So that is the Impact news. And you can go check out not just a report from John Cena, but also Deep Impact with Davey Portman and Andrew Thompson that dropped on Tuesday night on the Up Next feed. So check that out, as well as Up Next tonight, which you can listen to next.
As well as Shot in the Dark with John Cena, which is a 15-minute podcast just covering a ton of shows. NXT UK featuring Walter and A-Kid this week. The Dusty Rhodes Classic matches on 205 Live. Ring of Honor main event. And of course, AEW Dark. He'll catch you up in everything in a very short amount of time.
The most concise man on this network.
Certainly more than us.
As we now get into Dynamite, on a show that reviews Dynamite, 30 minutes into the show. It began, I thought this was just great from the start. They had Dark Order come out, and -1 is on Preston Vance's shoulders, and he's wearing Brody Lee's jacket. And they've got a birthday cake for him on the stage, and they light the candles, which seemed like quite the task with the wind, as they were all trying to shield Anna Jay to try and get the candles lit. And John Silver discusses their big night, and then they got the entire arena to join in singing Happy Birthday.
It was adorable. I didn't expect to really kind of join a kid's birthday party, but knowing who the kid was, I was so happy that they showed this on TV. Could have been easily saved for a dark segment, but I feel like, everybody, of course, is very well, just incredibly...
Everyone wanted to see this.
Yeah, everybody wanted to see this. Everybody knows this kid by now, and everybody wanted to feel a part of, making this kid perhaps feel a bit better than, of course, what he's dealing with.
They're interrupted by Luther with Serpentico, and he calls this a daycare center is what it's turning into, and he refers to -1 as Punky Brewster. The crowd chants, "You look stupid," at Luther, and he calls them all half-wits, and -1 is a doofus. Chaos Project doesn't like children, and we're going to ruin your birthday. I mean, this was right out of a cartoon. The villain showing up, "We're here to ruin your birthday." And this big brawl erupts, and then it culminates in Hangman Page's music playing, and he comes out, this place goes nuts, and he leaps off the stage onto everyone, and that takes us into our opening 8-man tag with Hangman, with the Dark Order members of Colt Cabana, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds against Chaos Project and TH2. And it builds to a hot tag with Page early on. He's going nuts in here. It's 4-on-1 against Serpentico. Reynolds hits a somersault dive to the floor, and then Page with the moonsault to the floor. They plug AEW shop, and Jim Ross notes in the cold, "I need a damn hoodie." Page then tries to lift Silver and Reynolds onto his back and to drop him onto Serpentico. I'm sure in the planning stages of this sounded great. This was a Herculean task, literally, of Page trying to lift these two and make it look graceful, which it did not. Evans did a springboard 450 onto Reynolds. Page is in for the save. Then on the stage, Luther is there, and -1 attacks Luther with the kendo stick. Cabana lifts up Luther for a flapjack to drop him onto the cake. Doesn't quite hit the target, nor does the table break, and Luther just calmly puts his face through this cake. Was a trooper here to get this over. And has the cake in his face. In the ring, we see a stunner by Reynolds onto Serpentico, buckshot lariat into the bridging German by John Silver to pin him in 6 minutes and 19 seconds. I just thought that, the crowd loved this. It was a nonstop fun 8-man tag, and then we got the stuff after the match, which we can get to. But I just thought this was a lot of fun to start the show.
I thought it was great. Made the whole thing just feel like a great, fun way to start the show. And above all, I thought it made the match feel like it had a higher purpose beyond, just kind of fulfilling a storyline or trying to impress a typical wrestling audience. It was a match to entertain a boy who really needed it. So I was really happy that they let the audience in on it. I quite enjoyed Luther in the earlier portion. I didn't even know what Luther's voice sounded prior to tonight, but I thought he was really quite amusing, kind of playing, essentially like a kid's type of pro wrestling supervillain. He was really good with the kid. Yeah, the cake bump could have looked a bit more direct, but I can forgive it. He really kind of put it in his own face afterwards. Overall, it was really good to see Dark Order continue to work as baby faces in ring. Reynolds and Silver in particular are just awesome doing that nonstop babyface AEW style that they probably grew up wrestling with the Bucks and whatnot. And showed great chemistry with Page working into their spots too.
I just thought everything clicked here with Dark Order. Like we talked about, man, this difficult task that they have ahead of themselves, that the audience really wants to be behind them. That's what we saw here. Everything just felt like they all fell into these roles. Everyone was behind them, and it was a fun 8-man tag. Afterwards, Serpentico gets nailed with the kendo stick by -1, who gets on the microphone and says, "My birthday was 3 days ago, you idiots." And then whoever came up with this, like, of course it makes total sense, but whoever thought of this was just awesome. He throws the papers at Serpentico. I love this spot.
I love it. It's you got the kid to play the dad's role. I would love a heel faction of like grown men being led by a 10-year-old kid. I think that'd be awesome.
So this was really great. Silver is playing like his high school crush is Hangman Page. He likes him a lot. He gets on one knee and proposes that he joins the Dark Order. Page says, "I can't." And with that, the graphic comes up on the screen. He said yes. These dancers are coming out and they have to shut it down because they did not get the answer they were expecting. He says he's had so much fun with them the last few weeks. He's done the group thing. It didn't end so well for him in the past. He apologizes. Dark Order is so sad. And Page takes a bottle and leaves through the exit. And Dark Order is so sad here.
I'm getting into all this. Page, of course, just saying no just makes you want to see him join this group even more. So to see that they might drag this thing out a few more months and then really kind of delaying it so that when he joins, the reaction will be as big as when Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi hugged for the first time. Like, that's going to be wonderful. So I'm getting into the storyline. I think it's a good follow-up for the Dark Order right now. Like, Page presents enough star power to make their story relevant. And as a babyface team, I think they're connecting extremely well.
Alex Marvez was with Jericho and MJF in the back ahead of the 3-way Inner Circle tag match. MJF is worried about causing dissension in the group, but Jericho says this will make them stronger tonight, calls them the sex hooligans, and Jericho says no matter what, the Inner Circle wins tonight, and then one team will move forward. Tony Schiavone brought out Sting and Darby Allin, and Sting says that there's something about Darby that reminds him of himself.
It's probably the face paint, because I can't possibly think of anything else that would remind Darby Allin of Steve Borden. Like, what do they have in common?
Nothing. Not a thing.
Not in-ring style, not stature, not background.
If they ever put a camera in a car with these two for a road trip, that would be the end of Sting.
It'd probably be like, yeah, don't you hate it when the paint gets in your hair? Yeah, I gotta wash it out. Start all over. It sucks.
Sting, have you ever jumped in a body bag off a bridge? No, that's really stupid and pretty careless. So he thinks it's phenomenal. The Darby's phenomenal. He congratulates him for being the TNT champion. And he wasn't here to interrupt last week just to give Darby a fair fight against Brian Cage. And with that, you hear, "Shut up! Shut up!" And there's Team Taz in the background. And Taz, shocker, he's pissed off. He complains about Darby using his belt last week to hog-tie Brian. They fought dirty. Well, Taz grew up in the streets. And he says, "The ball is in your court, bitches. We can take it to the streets." And Darby says to be careful what you wish for. So it looks like we're going with a street fight. I don't know involving who, but Team Taz against Darby, and then whatever backup he has. And I guess the hint here is, can we dress up a street fight so that Sting can do something physically?
That's what I took out of it, because on one end it was 5 men challenging 2 people, and if somehow that turns into a one-on-one match, that makes no sense to me. Clearly, it's at least, the challenge was being put towards the group of Sting and Darby Allin. So to me, it's an indication that Sting is going to come back and wrestle.
I just want Taz to cut these promos every week. I think he's great.
He is very good, and his faction looks great. Standing next to each other, they're all various
dude, the look
sizes.
on Hook's face every week, like the way he just he's great at just staring.
He's just like, I don't know, like he's like a little kid who is trying to look tough with his grown-up friends. It's kind of cute.
Like, if you had to rank all the managers in AEW that they've brought in, like I'm very high on Tully, but the guy that they have gotten the most out of, it has to be Taz.
I'm trying to think who else there is. Because I don't disagree.
Jake, Arn, Vicky.
Oh my God, yeah, no question, would be Taz.
And then Tully, yeah. Like, I just think Taz, they brought in.
If you don't count Eddie Kingston, I suppose, as a manager.
I guess he's he serves that function.
Yeah.
Then we go to Kenny Omega's house. The Young Bucks show up, and there is Alex Marvez. They are going to some ridiculous lengths to explain why a camera is on location at places. Like, this to me was quite the stretch tonight, of Marvez being positioned at Kenny's house. The Young Bucks run into him, and they have him tag along with the cameraman so that we can see why there is footage inside a home being shot and aired on TNT.
Yeah, I know, like, Tony Khan's whole thing is that he doesn't like the invisible camera, but sometimes, like, to put so much attention to it and to, like, come up with wacky scenarios to get the camera there and to get the cameraman to leave so that they can put the camera down to show a private setting, that gets to be a bit just too much. Like, just, I don't even care whether or not there's an invisible camera at that point, Like, if you don't want to do an invisible camera, I don't think you could do these sort of storylines. Essentially, what you want to do is simply a sports presentation where only action only takes place in public settings, like a press conference or a live interview. I don't like, they're writing these segments that are traditional pro wrestling segments that really do require you to just suspend your disbelief to think that there's a camera there, and I don't think that's a problem.
Like, it would have made more sense if they were at like you're getting really wacky here, but like if they had been, if Alex Marvez had been with his camera operator at a restaurant and just happens to see the Young Bucks come in and boom, we've got a scoop here. The Young Bucks are here. Why are you here? We're meeting Kenny, Alex. What do you want? And you at least have a logical reason to run into each other. But Marvez is just like stationed here outside of his house. This guy's a paparazzi, essentially.
Sure. Yeah, essentially. Okay. He's everywhere.
Well, so Michael Nakazawa is there. They go inside the house, and we see the most ridiculous oil painting of Kenny Omega and Don Callis.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
If this is not a t-shirt by tomorrow on Pro Wrestling Tees,
how many people do you think would buy this?
There will be somebody out there that buys this.
Yeah.
Callis shows up. He notes he had this painting commissioned, and they call him on the switch last week when Kenny brought in the Good Brothers, and Callis is just backtracking. He heard something in his ear from production, and Omega can't show up here. He then asks, do you guys have Kenny's new number? They said, what? Oh, yeah. Kenny, he was getting all these calls from fans and marks. He had to get a new number, and insinuates that the Bucks aren't in Kenny's new updated list of people that have the new number. And Callis sends Marvez and the cameraman off to the dungeon, but the camera stays down and shoots the conversation so we can see them. Callis tries to buy off the Bucks by writing out checks to get rid of them from Kenny's life. The Bucks are offended, stating, we made this much last week, and they used to work at the company that Callis is now a VP of, so they know these checks aren't good anyway. And Callis explains how the Young Bucks are holding Kenny back, the new Kenny, and he's trying to get rid of them.
I thought this was a good BTE segment. On Dynamite, it felt a little too camp and too cheesy. The premise of, I guess by this point, the Bucks, still kind of being skeptical when it's so clear. And what is it, Callis, I guess, buying them out to paying somebody to stop being friends with somebody else. It's a very kind of like, BTE type of ridiculous segment that I don't know if it worked that well on Dynamite.
Well, I hope I never get a check in the mail from one of your new friends, and then I text you and the number is no longer in service. This is actually, it's a weird comparison, but I watched, I told you about the Tiger Woods documentary last week, so I watched part 2 this week, and it's not like the greatest documentary in the world, but it is a really fascinating, actually the construction of this documentary is really fascinating because they interviewed so many people that had these very close bonds with Tiger Woods. And this is an unauthorized doc. Tiger has nothing to do with this, and his agent has slammed the documentary. But you have all these people, like his caddy, who was Tiger was the best man at his wedding, his first girlfriend, like all these people, close friends of his, and they're all in this documentary. Tiger is not approving of this documentary. And it's like one story after the other about how Tiger Woods just completely disassociated himself from these people. Like the caddy, this guy who Tiger was the best man at his wedding, and Tiger takes a sabbatical from golf. And the caddy says, "Are you okay if I caddy for this other golfer?" And says, "You do whatever you have to." The guy caddies one event, and boom, Tiger fires him as his caddy and never talks to him again. And it's this this continued trend of like Tiger's new life. He just totally distances himself from those around him from like different periods of his life. And they've all come together in this documentary to talk about their closeness to him that was lost over these years. So in a roundabout way, that's what this is, Way.
I'd love to watch the whole documentary with Tiger Woods. It's
really interesting. It's on HBO on Crave in Canada. It's like 2 parts. I think you'd really find it interesting and just a disgusting paparazzi of how they treated that scandal and how they treated the people involved in it. But yeah, it's an interesting documentary to say the least. Peter Avalon versus Cody Rhodes is next, and Cody had said in the lead up to this that he would only need a minute to beat him. He was Conor McGregor here, predicting 60 seconds to beat Dustin Poirier. So out came pretty Peter Avalon, who's been on a winning streak on Dark. And instantly Cody hits the crossroads. But before he can pin Peter Avalon, Jade Cargill comes out to distract. And Avalon kicks him in the balls right behind the referee's back. And then goes after the knee. And Cody would sell this knee for the rest of this match, which goes through a commercial break. There's a leapfrog spot where Cody goes up and then crashes down on Avalon, which looked like a planned screw-up.
I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
It worked for the match because he's just grabbing the knee at this mistimed spot, and I thought it worked regardless. Avalon hit this tope suicida. Then he comes off the rope and gets caught with a cutter. And then Cody hits a power slam, applies the figure 4. It's reversed, but then he regains the position and Avalon submits. So they actually had a pretty competitive match here. And the story being that Cody's knee got really messed up and Arn was freaking out about this knee injury after the match.
Yeah, I thought the story was well conveyed. I didn't like this finish at all. Like, he's about to slap him in the face and the man tapped out because he was about to be slapped.
Well, he's pretty Peter Avalon. He's got to protect the face.
Oh, is that the gimmick? He's too pretty to be slapped?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. I just felt like it came across really flat. You're in the middle of like a really pretty heated matchup. And then I guess it felt like a tap out of nowhere. It kind of defeated the purpose of the rest of the match.
Yeah. It was fine. Like it gave Avalon something here, but I think more so it was like Cody's knee and coming back and telling the story that he overlooked Peter Avalon. So, Then they plugged Go Big Show, and Excalibur once again mispronounced Bert Kreischer's name, calling him Bert Krishna, which I think is a running gag now to mispronounce his name. FTR is with Tully Blanchard, and they talk about the ratings coming in. They are number one, but they need the belts. Jurassic Express storm in, and Jungle Boy says that he learned he can beat either of them in the ring, and Dax threatens to fight him next week. And Luchasaurus says, we will all be ringside, but I will make sure no one gets involved. And Jurassic Express leaves. Dax throws his drink, and he says, I will kill him.
Okay, well, I hope not.
So there you go. That's our match next week. I think that's going to be a hell of a match next week.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Then Jon Moxley makes his way out to the ring, and Jim Ross says that he is ready to fight in a heartbeat. We then went to a commercial break. If your heart ever stops for the length of a commercial break, you would be in serious trouble. So never let your heart stop for that amount of time.
That would be bad.
So Jon Moxley took on 0-2 Nick Comoroto, who has been on AEW Dark, and I thought this was a just basic match for Jon Moxley, but I thought they turned this into like a really great 4-minute television match for Comoroto here, who got to show off his power and size. Moxley gave him a lot, tried to bite him in the face, caught him with an Ushigoroshi, and they're talking about what a major upset this could be if Nick Comoroto can continue this momentum. He runs and misses Moxley in the corner. Moxley's kicking away at the chest. Release German after Comoroto bounces off the ropes. And then a lariat, but Comoroto won't go down. He lifts him onto the shoulders, and then Moxley transitions to a rear naked choke. Comoroto goes down to his back and goes out cold, and it's called off at 3:57. I thought this was really well done for just a 4-minute match to... Like, it was, in theory, a squash match, but it was like, give this guy something, and it made the win feel that much more important.
I was really entertained by it. You know, because of the guy's size, you could buy that Comoroto is a threat to somebody like Moxley, even though, you know, as far as status, the disparity is just so huge. But it's as if, like, you know, in this match, it was like Moxley facing off with a bear. Even if a bear isn't ranked in the, I don't know, heavyweight rankings, you can buy that it's still pretty dangerous, and that it's because they had, you know, gave him so much offense, and physically Comoroto looked so great. Moxley winning by choking him out at the end felt like an accomplishment for him. So it was a great opportunity for Comoroto to showcase himself with the biggest star in the company, and he did great. And I thought Moxley benefited as well. So all parties really benefited from this.
So what you want to see next week is Jon Moxley taking on another AEW Dark featured act, Bear Country.
All the animals. Yeah, they can go through the dragon, all that.
They have a lot of animals represented in this company. Moxley cuts a promo, says anything can happen on Dynamite. He can't keep track of who's in the Bullet Club, the Elite, Impact Wrestling. Kenny thought he would bring his frat brothers to watch his back. Now that just means more bodies and bigger brawls to have, which means more violence and more limbs to break. He's going to climb up the mountain because no matter what, all roads in pro wrestling lead through him.
Good babyface promo from Mox, you know, full of attitude and just great confidence that he could take on any challenge. So I just want him to address that backstage attack by this point.
Yeah, maybe it should have been Nick Comoroto.
Okay, and this was the revenge.
Dasha's with Eddie Kingston and the family. He's going to face Lance Archer next week. He's asked, how are you going to prepare? He doesn't prepare. He just fights. Lance and Jake walk in. Jake, God bless this man. He needed a couple buttons on this shirt done up. Archer tells him that Pac beat your ass. They're going to fight one-on-one next week. Jake calls him a chicken shit and then ends by telling Eddie, bite me.
Yes.
Channeling Rick Steiner here.
Pretty cold dude to me, but, you know, I'm sure the match will be good.
Marvez finds Kenny Omega and this ridiculous outfit he was in by design. And Omega goes into the locker room area and finds Don Callis, whose face is all bruised up. And Callis is just playing like the slime ball here. He's like, oh, I don't want to tell you what happened. It's no big deal. It was, Nick and Matt. Oh, Nick and Matt. I didn't mean to say that. And then kicks Alex Marvez out, calling him a stooge. So Callis, the invisible hand, even manipulating Kenny Omega here.
I think he's really good in his role, despite maybe how BTE feeling or how campy feeling the prior segment was. I think, as a whole, Callis is a very good performer. And, his VP status at Impact and ability to kind of foster this whole crossover is just sort of just an extra. But as a performer, even if he was not attached to Impact, I think he'd be great for this.
So here is where I appreciated that earlier segment more, because now, like, this was clearly Don Callis is lying to Kenny Omega. But how can we prove that lie? Don was not aware that that camera was rolling where the footage will exonerate the Young Bucks. They did not attack Don Callis.
Did we see the whole interaction, though?
No, we did not. We saw the end where they were there was no escalation in violence, but there was the tape was rolling.
Did they end the conversation? Did they leave?
Well, they cut away. So I guess like there's always the possibility that Don's telling the truth, but he shouldn't be telling the truth here.
He's very likely not telling the truth. Yeah.
Anyway, that tape, someone's got to get a hold of that tape. Matt Sydal and Top Flight versus Matt Hardy and Private Party. We had Darius and Dante Martin with drop kicks right away. And then Top Flight tries this tandem spot. This thing was nuts. There's a bounce off the rope into a monkey flip with one flipping, I think it was Darius flipping Dante over, but he didn't quite land onto Quen, and then he went for another flip onto onto Quen. When he went for the pin, he realized he was not the legal man, so Sydal had to go for the cover afterward.
To which JR says, does it really matter?
Listen, I
think he hates this stuff.
Listen, this match, like, there was some impressive stuff in this match, but there was a lot of, like, stuff that was completely off in this too. Like, this was not a tight match involving these six.
Oh, this was exactly the type of match where, like, it would make somebody agree with Jim Ross on some of his points.
Like, they had a lot of ideas here, but especially with Top Flight and Private Party. Like, you had Sydal and Matt Hardy, to me, were kind of the ones trying to keep everything together, but it was just so, like, they were just trying so many things, and just the timing was off on a lot of stuff, and it was really hard to see a semblance of, like, you can appreciate when this stuff is done flawlessly. This one was not done flawlessly. Sydal did a double Rana after they beat on him through the commercial. Darius hit the standing Spanish fly to Cassidy, and then this crazy tope to Matt Hardy, who just crashed into the guardrail. The silly string gets stopped. Hardy hits side effects to all three and tries a triple cover and got 3 2 counts, which Jim Ross notes was a 6 count, but distributed 3 ways. Dante did that leaping Frankensteiner to Quen and catching it at the end. And then as Dante climbs to the top, Cassidy uses a chair to the ribs. Mark Quen gives him a smile before hitting the shooting star press and pins Dante after the utilization of the chair. Sydal and Darius are pissed off afterwards, so Private Party beat them down, and then Matt hits a twist of fate to Darius and Matt Sydal. So Private Party, after signing this awful contract, have come to the realization that, hey, we're locked into this deal, so let's make the best of it.
I mean, traveling on a jet and being able to appear in multiple promotions on the same night, I guess they were convinced that, hey, like, Matt's onto something. I thought it was, just an okay match. You pointed out a lot of the issues. I was more so concerned with seeing how Private Party take to being a heel act at this point. I think, they spent like a year in AEW essentially kind of being Top Flight for the first year. Like they're these fresh guys from the indies, they can do great, but no real storylines to speak of, not much personality that's come out, or at least not enough on Dynamite. So I'll see like what the heel turn does for the two of them. And certainly being featured in a role on Impact as well makes them feel that much more special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the setup to all of this, like, I don't know. It just seems like they come off as like pretty foolish signing these contracts at the beginning of it. Like if you were going to turn them, I think there was a way to do. Yeah, so now it's like they're just Stockholm syndrome, I guess.
Maybe they think it's a good deal.
Okay,
Maybe they think Matt deserves 50%.
Some people do that in wrestling. Some people do sign bad deals in wrestling that they convince themselves are great ones.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's still Matt Hardy clearly kind of taking advantage of the young people that he's got to sign for him. But in either case, it's a fresh direction for Private Party. It allows them forces them to kind of wrestle a different style, maybe even forces them to slow their matches down, rely less on athleticism and, crazy spots and more on just maybe storytelling. So I think it'll be beneficial for them in the long run.
MJF and Wardlow went into the Inner Circle locker room where the members were minus Jericho. And he speaks to Santana, Ortiz, Hager, and Sammy and says if it was up to him, he isn't sure this match would be happening. But what Chris says goes. Sammy gets up into MJF's face and MJF says, listen, I love you guys and we have to be a family. I respect you, Sammy, for speaking what's on your mind. I'm not a sociopath. I want what is best for the group, so let's just get this match out of the way. And the other ones begrudgingly agree. He goes to put up his fist for Sammy, who says, we're not there yet. So MJF is playing... We've got a lot of master manipulators in this promotion. We have Don Callis, Matt Hardy, and MJF at work. And MJF is knowing that these guys do not want to do this match tonight, and he's playing to that and speaking to them like I'm on your side in all of this. This is not a great idea. If I was the leader, we wouldn't be doing this. So I continue to enjoy the reverse psychology that MJF is clearly playing with.
I think he'd be great on like a Big Brother or like Survivor or like one of those competition reality shows.
Yes, he would be like the modern, like Johnny Fairplay, I guess.
Yeah.
He would lie about his grandmother's death. Layla Hirsch against Penelope Ford. We've got Orange Cassidy watching in the crowd, and Ford comes out with Kip Sabian, Miro, and Charles Taylor in his tuxedo. And I thought that this match, of course, was supposed to be Layla Hirsch and Nyla Rose, but Nyla Rose had to withdraw from these tapings after a family member got COVID that she had direct contact with. So as a precaution, she stayed off of these tapings, and Penelope Ford got inserted. Layla Hirsch, I really enjoy Layla Hirsch. I think that she was great in this match. She is controlling the back. Ford kicks out her knee, does like the John Jones kick to the knee, and then as Hirsch does a kip up, Taylor trips her at the request of Miro, and then Hirsch has to fight off the numbers. She goes after Kip. That leads to a pump kick from Ford on the floor and is sent into the guardrail. Hirsch then, in the ring after the break, spins Ford into the splits, hits a running knee, a release German, double knees in the corner, and then scales to the top and dives onto Miro and Taylor on the floor. And then as she's re-entering the ring, she gets nailed with a kick from Ford. Ford goes for the pin. And this is the part that just was, made no sense. Kip grabs Hirsch's foot and is like, I don't know if he's trying to put it on the rope or he was expecting her to have the foot on the rope. Regardless, this made no sense.
Wasn't he trying to hold the foot down?
The foot was down, and then he grabbed it.
Well, like to keep it down. Was he not like pressing the foot down to prevent her from kicking?
He like raised it.
Yeah.
It was a blown finish. I don't know what they were doing. And listen, for Excalibur tried to like cover for this, and I can appreciate when you try to do this. I also appreciate Jim Ross just saying, I don't know what he was trying to do. Like, I don't think you have to go out on a complete ledge when something makes absolutely no sense in front of your eyes. And that's what this was to me. I watched this like 3 times. I have no idea other than perhaps Hirsch was supposed to have her foot on the rope and he knocks it off. But this, I thought, and Ford too, I thought both of them had a very good match up until the finish. And Hirsch is just like a real great, I wouldn't even say underdog. Like she just, in this role she was because she had to overcome the numbers. But they've got something great in Layla Hirsch. And this was a rare chance for Penelope Ford who has looked very good when she has been given time on Dynamite.
I agree. I like them both. And Layla Hirsch, I think, is somebody who's really unique in the division. I think who'd, be a great fit in something like a Team Taz. But certainly like in terms of stardom, you definitely see a lot more in Penelope Ford. So, unfortunately, the whole match was really just a backdrop for this like Butler thing, which I think is way more.
It sucked tonight. Like this stuff in the post match. Like I thought the strength of this was doing some like on location vignettes or something like this. I thought it was really lame afterwards. Miro brings Taylor into the ring and he says, I'll take you places, but you need to let go of your past. This is literally the Don Callis, Kenny Omega story in a mid-card role. He needs to get on the mic and tell that George Michael wannabe, Orange Cassidy, that Miro is his new best friend. So Taylor has to begrudgingly tell him, Miro is my best friend now. And Orange Cassidy is dejected and walks off. Number one, what is the consequence if Taylor refused to do this? He's a man of his word.
He's already.
And number two, why would Orange Cassidy possibly be offended by this? If someone had a gun to your head and you told me, you know what, John, you're a piece of shit. You know what? Fair enough.
Yeah, sure.
I wouldn't be all sad. I'd realize what the circumstances are here. Anyway, I think this story is really lame.
It's a pretty. Yeah, it's not really kind of changing my mind about it all. It's not much better than the video game controller being broken.
Well, at least they have a consistency. And the wedding's in 2 weeks. That's when this Butler thing ends.
Okay, great.
Backstage, Anderson and Gallows have appeared and they destroy Penta. Omega and Callis appear and Omega joins in on the attack and he takes off his ridiculous boot, which is perfect for this guy, this boot. And he takes the point of the boot and stabs Penta in the eye. So yes, folks, eyes are still going to be part of pro wrestling injuries in 2021.
Well,
I just wanted to hear Samoa Joe. It's out.
It's modern storytelling, just at least they're not burning people.
So next week, they announce Kingston and Archer. Cody responds to Shaq. He has had a long time to think about this response, so it better be a hell of a response.
This damn story is just, like, barely existing. Shaq's probably done, like, 10,000 DJ gigs since then. He doesn't even give a shit about this anymore.
Do you watch Dynamite on TSN?
Yeah.
Do you watch the Shaq ad for the printers?
Shaq is in every
I know, but this ad's the best.
Yeah,
Talks about how expensive other printers are. The people have to print in black and white to save money. Not anymore.
The man has no shame. Put his face on anything.
Well, Dax Harwood versus Jungle Boy. And then the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers against Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds are the 4 matches announced for next week.
Yeah. Like, why are the Bucks and the Good Brothers suddenly teaming?
They didn't really give a reason for why it's been booked.
So they are believing that it's a misunderstanding? Or it's one of those things where they'll explain it on Dynamite, I guess? Like, they're the bosses, wouldn't they? Anyway.
Well, Tony Khan has booked this.
Okay.
But the Bucks explained on Being the Elite this week. They know that they were lied to last week. They know it wasn't just some mistake.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I'm sure you'll get an explanation. It's one of those, like, why did they, you certainly saw no build up to it on this episode. But, all right.
Then for Beach Break on February 3rd, it's going to be the wedding. Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker, a tag team battle royal where the winners face the Young Bucks at Revolution, which, I mean, you have laid out a numerous set of teams that could be in the running here, including the Good Brothers who could win this.
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
And the main event of Beach Break will be Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers against Jon Moxley, Pac, and Phoenix, with the angle involving Penta to obviously explain his absence here.
Mm-hmm. That's a good looking match.
That should be a great match. And then they announced that the AEW Women's Championship Eliminator Tournament is coming soon.
And they showed a graphic showing on one side the U.S. flag and on the other side a Japanese flag. So I wonder if it's going to be like a Japan versus U.S. type of tournament.
I guess so. I didn't even notice the flags. So, yeah, that would make sense. You have one bracket and the other. I wonder if
How are they going to do that? If the are they going to do matches in Japan or what?
You could. That seems very unlike AEW to just take matches.
They wouldn't have like tape matches on Dynamite.
Or they could just decide that they're going to do this tournament, bring over Rio and like Yuka Sakazaki, and they do the tournament. They can tape all the stuff, and then they go back to Japan. They have to quarantine when they go back.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like we're going to pick our spots to bring them over and get the most out of them while they're here, and then they return home.
It would be committing to using them for a period and then having them stick around for a bit. I mean, it's eventually. I mean, it's almost we're getting to the point where it's going to be a year before like somebody like Riho will have been last seen. So I imagine they might be at the point now where they're just like, maybe we just bring them over.
Main event was Chris Jericho, MJF against Santana and Ortiz against Jake Hager and Sammy Guevara. The best part was Jake Hager and Sammy Guevara coming out, and there is a video message from Sammy Hagar calling them his new favorite tag team. I thought this was so awesome.
That was great. Absolutely. And of course, I guess Jericho with his connections, this is not really too hard to believe that they made happen, but
I love this.
Yeah, it was great.
It's little things like that I think are great. That someone thought about it.
That was not a little thing at all.
I mean, it was an inset promo. It was like a very short thing on the show, but it was very cool. As expected, the crowd starts chanting "Tag Team Slut" at Chris Jericho. This was a really fun. I hate three-ways by usual standards. This one I was really engaged in because you had all these different stories and you're watching like who's going to help who's going to try and undermine the other. And I think you could make a case for any of these teams winning this. So I thought they laid this out very well. The star of this match was Sammy Guevara. He was awesome as the babyface. He fires up on Jericho early on, does the pose on the mat, and then gets catapults Jericho into Hager's right hand. We have Santana and Ortiz come in, they double team Jericho, and Shivani points out that like the first half of this match, it's Jericho in there by himself. MJF has never tagged in, so it's Jericho taking all the punishment. And with that, MJF gets tagged in, and Hager goes after him. Hager showed a lot of fire in this. Guevara did a springboard into a cutter on MJF, then a corkscrew plancha. He just looked incredible in this match. Did a one-man Spanish fly to Ortiz, and then Jericho gets the bat, and Jake Hager stops him from using the bat. So Wardlow passes the ring to MJF. Hager stops him with the ring. Then Jericho goes for the lion salt, and you can see immediately he doesn't get the same spring from the mat onto the ropes, and this was one of the scariest looking lion salts. He was so lucky he was okay. This was a very scary looking one.
It might be time to retire the move. And like the man has hit it perfectly his entire career, but at this point he definitely does not need it. It's really just a transition move. Like that Judas effect is way more over. If he wanted to get another move over, he can, just like that. So I do wonder if it's time to like save that one for like the really big event.
Yeah, it's it's a scary one. Like that was the Hayabusa injury, you know what I mean? But it was just very scary to watch this because you could see just when he balanced on the ropes, you knew it looked scary, and he still went through with it, and thankfully appeared okay. There's a code breaker on Ortiz for a 2 count, then a Hager bomb, this crazy senton from Guevara, Ortiz with the save, and then Guevara lifts up Jericho with the GTH and tries for the same to MJF, but as he has him on his shoulders, rams him into Wardlow on the apron, and that allows MJF to get off the shoulders, roll up Guevara, and grab the trunks for the pin. So MJF and Jericho prevail.
Very good main event. You know, as you mentioned, Sammy stole the show. He wrestled like an incredible babyface. And it really feels like they're pushing Sammy Hagar as like a babyface team now, complete with endorsement from Sammy Hagar himself. Jake Hager gets all these power spots. He thwarts all the weapon usage. Sammy gets all the high flying, and the finish is him getting cheated by MJF. So I'd love to see where they go with it. Clearly, he's the one who with the most descent to MJF of everybody, and at least if they go on a little run as baby faces, I would love to see a continued push of Sammy Hagar.
Yeah, I thought one thing on this show is that when you look at 5-6 years down the road of who are going to be some of your key guys, and it's just like, man, you've got Guevara, you've got MJF, Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, like they have just such a that group that they have that are in their mid-20s. It's pretty impressive, like where you can imagine these guys being just in 2 years from now, much less 5.
Oh, completely. In ring, I think so many of them already have it. At this point, it's just about building the characters and the star power and stories.
So that was Impact, or sorry, that was Dynamite. It's not Impact yet. So your thoughts on the show, Way? Good and bad?
I thought it was an okay show. I didn't think it was a great Dynamite because there have been a lot of better ones lately. There weren't really too many matches I was looking forward to prior to this one, and I can understand it because it's, look at the competition on TV. But I really enjoyed the -1 birthday party just for the atmosphere, like the main event. Some of the Bucks Kenny stuff was just okay. Didn't really love some of the backstage skits, and the rest of it was somewhat average, I have to say.
Yeah, the Young Bucks playing angry is sometimes very tough.
It's fine for BTE because it's such a campy show, but when it's definitely a case of sort of overacting, and maybe in wrestling there's like a way to make that work, but it didn't work tonight for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the main event, and the opening 8-man I thought was great. And the crowd, like, this was a live show tonight. I thought the crowd, it sounded good tonight.
Yeah. They've been letting more people in, haven't they?
They're at about, I think, Tony Khan just said this the other day, like I think they have like 2 kind of setups where it's anywhere from like, give or take like 700 to 1,100 that they can fit in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So let's go to the forum. And tonight's show got a 6.69, which is lower by Dynamite standards on the forum. Let's go first to Andrew from Cape Breton. Tonight's show was good. Not much to give feedback to, as they did the usual good things. Good trios match. They tried to establish some new guys, some new people, and a good Cody match. This Nick Comoroto guy seems like he has potential, and with AEW's love of managers, he should be put with someone like Tully Blanchard or even Jake Roberts if they want to expand the number of people he manages. The highlight was the Dark Order segment. Luther was awesome tonight, and the botched celebration was a genuinely funny moment. 8 footstools for Lana out of 10.
All right, we go to Jesse from Montreal, who says, I'm surprised the rating is as high as it is tonight. I usually enjoy Dynamite, but I thought tonight's show was really sloppy. There were botches throughout the night. Seidel and Top Flight versus Hardy Party was a complete mess, and the main event seemed rushed. Yeah, they went off air like right away. Like they definitely were trying to cram everything in by the end. Pro wrestling is really hard to do well, and people make mistakes. I get it, but I perceived so many errors. I started thinking maybe something was wrong with the ring. But hey, maybe it's just me. I still love Adam Page.
Mark writes, just wanted to say that the he said yes moment was probably one of the few times I've genuinely laughed at a wrestling promo and segment. This is where they had the whole celebration expecting Page to say yes. It was I love that whole opening segment. I thought the first 10-12 minutes of the show were great.
Finally, we go to Jeremy, who says, did they really have to scroll the AEW Dark results during the Moxley-Camarato match? Of course, I didn't have any belief that Moxley would lose, but seeing that the guy he was wrestling lost to Scorpio Sky last night, took any part of the competitiveness out of the match. With that criticism of AEW's production errors that just seem to continue, being an Impact Wrestling fan first and foremost, I have to say I'm really enjoying all the crossover between both companies. What other wrestlers do you see crossing over between them?
I don't have a criticism of that. I mean, he was presented. He's 0-2. This was not presented as anything different. I don't know. I don't see a big issue with that. In terms of the crossover, I think that I don't think you need to overdo it, that I think you want to keep it to a relative small number that you're focused on, because it can get like, I don't think we need to see both locker rooms crossing over, but I think they are slowly introducing the idea, like this week, that you don't know who's going to show up, and it's not just going to be one-sided either. You can see Impact talent showing up to AEW and vice versa, so that even on a down week, you kind of have that in your back pocket to, as a fan, to anticipate potentially having them cross over. But I think for now, you focus on, you know, your tag teams, like obviously Omega and Swan. I think that's going to be a prime focus going into Rebellion, and the Good Brothers will be the key ones going back and forth. But you could get the Machine Guns in there when Shelley's ready to come back. I think that's a natural to do. And maybe we'll see a bit more of, you know, your private party level guys that can go to Impact and get some more time that is not available on Dynamite each week.
I'd love to see some of the knockouts jump in. And in fact, this female title eliminator tournament would be a perfect slot to get somebody in there. So I hope, to me, like, you know, I looking up and down that Impact roster, and honestly, there aren't really a ton of names that I feel like would be big difference makers, at least in terms of my interest. But I think the Knockouts division would be an exception. I think you could bring Moose in there. You can bring maybe Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards, you know, as perhaps some of the more recognizable faces that might make, you know, an impact on a Dynamite. So
Kenny Omega versus Ken Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock, yes, of course.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for
Ken
the
Chan
feedback.
versus Ken Sham.
Wow. I'll tell you, Ken Sham is the perfect description.
All right.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for all those that tuned in live as well. I've enjoyed doing these live.
Yeah. We always get a nice little intimate group in here of double plus patrons who watch us do Raw and SmackDown live every single Monday and Wednesday now at 10:15 and 11:15 p.m. Eastern. So shout outs to Branavan, Brandon from New Jersey, Hacksaw, Jim Powers, Hansi, Anthony, Professor Kevin. Thank you for helping me with my Zoom earlier in the day. And Eric Marcotte, as always, and all of you guys that are in here.
Yes. So again, the wellness policy debuts Thursday at 3 Eastern for all patrons. And also, forgot to mention, the UFC 257 post show will be live Saturday night, right after the main event between Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor. Myself and Phil Chairtalk will be live, chatting about the entire show. And do check out the post wrestling Discord. We'll be in there during the fights, and check it all out. The UFC 257 post show.
Will you be posting food pics?
I don't know what is going on in the Discord food wise.
Well, it seems like it's a competition between Brandon and Phil about who's got the best dinners and lunches. So
who's winning?
I would say Brandon. Like, the man eats well. He eats really well. So it's always very impressive. Of course, a lot of sections in there about gaming, TV, movies, politics, even music. So postwrestling.com/Discord. Interact with other listeners.
All right. Well, check out all of that. Thank you to everybody for listening, and we'll speak with you Friday night after the obstacle course.